my friend.
How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you doing?
Actually, I just had a what beautiful session with somebody and all these wonderful energies came through, so I'm feeling really good right now.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm
Mm.
also curious about how this is going to unfold, so I,
Hmm.
check in about how I dress every day.
Yeah.
And I felt the desire message. Anyway, I'm wearing earrings that my mother-in-law gave me and a necklace I gave her that I got back when she passed. So
Oh.
we'll see if she's gonna join us. She might. Um,
Oh, that would be exciting.
yeah,
Tell me about the necklace though, and the earrings actually. I was going to ask you about the necklace because is it rose quartz and stone or is it just stones?
it's wood actually. Oh wait,
Oh,
actually, no, I lied.
hold it up a little bit more
These
so we
might
can
be
all see it.
glass.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of modernish.
Oh,
I don't
wow.
really know her style, but some things you're like, oh, that's so nice. Oh, you know who'd really love, but it could have been like,
Hmm.
oh, that's so nice. I'm gonna get that for myself, but I got it
Right.
for her, and I think she liked it. She wore it,
Well, and you're also in pink, which
which
is
is totally
all
different too.
about, no, yeah, but all about
Oh,
vagina and love and
love and yeah,
sensuality. I'm, of
yeah.
course, in blue, but oh well. And then your earrings. Tell me about your earrings.
These are fused glass, and when they were visiting, the one time they came, because they were elderly, they couldn't really travel much, and she bought these for me. We were walking around an area in San Diego where they sell a lot of stuff, and she knew that I loved glass because I used to do a lot of glass stuff like mosaic and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So it was very in tune with me that she got these for me.
Okay. Well, we'll see if, what's her name?
Faye.
Hi, Faye. If you want to join us, let us know.
Yeah, and I call her Mum because she's
Hmm.
from New Zealand and that's what everybody else called her, so I just called her Mum. So,
So
yeah.
let's talk virginity.
Yes, let's do that.
So our topic today is the whole concept around losing your virginity, why it's significant, how we lost our virginity, was it significant? And I think really most importantly is where where are we now in how people feel about those decisions, whether they're thinking about losing their virginity or now looking back as a 50-year-old or 60-year-old, you know, did was it right? Was it right at the time? Does it feel good, etc.? So I did a little research. And the CDC basically says that the average age, and this shocked me, to losing your virginity was 17.3 years.
Hmm.
And that shocked me. I thought it actually would be younger now.
Oh, that's a current statistic.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I would have thought so too.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
I know. I typed in, what's the average age? Latest numbers from the CDC. The
Hmm.
average age boys first have sex at 16.8 years and girls at 17.2. So I guess 17.3 was wrong. 17.1 is the average. And that was in, okay, hold on. Oh, hold on. That was in 2016. Ha ha ha. That probably is not correct anymore. Ooh,
Hmm.
why haven't they done another study in 2024? Let's see. What? Oh, average age to lose virginity by country 2024. This is the worldpopulationreview.com.
Okay.
And it's a video. So we're not going to watch the video. Okay, here we go. Right? Oh, let's take some guesses. Okay. So let's talk about this. What do you think the average age in China is?
It's hard for me to guess. I'm gonna usually try to use my intuition, but I'm seeing
Okay.
like 20, 21 or 23.
21.2.
Hmm. Interesting.
Okay, so the country with the highest average age is Malaysia, followed by Indonesia, followed by India. Now, isn't that interesting? That is quite culturally based, I would imagine. Uh, and then South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, Turkey. So you're definitely seeing that part of the world.
Wow.
Okay. Oh, goodness me. All right. Now I'm going to go down to the bottom. Oh, this is so strange. United States actually shows 18.4. Now these are averages. So again,
Fair enough. Yeah.
averages.
Hmm.
Um, Brazil, Colombia, New Zealand, Austria, Czech Republic, Germany, Russia. Those are all of them are in the 17s.
Oh.
Interesting.
Huh. Yeah.
Which country has the lowest virginity age? 17.3. And Malaysia with the highest. Huh. So when did you lose your virginity?
I was 2 weeks shy of turning 21.
Okay. I was 24.
Wow.
Now, I like to put it out there that it was not because people didn't want it. I had a very interesting relationship with my virginity. I felt like it was really something to savor and that it was a gift that I was going to give the individual that got it. I really felt like it was a precious thing. And I am very much have been known in my college years and after, when someone would ask me out on a date, I would say, yeah, no problem, but I'm a virgin. And so you're not going to get my virginity, just so you know. And I would just, and there were a few guys that literally would just simply say, okay, it's all right. We don't have to go out. But I learned right away.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
I learned right away. Just, there it is. I'm very much out there about it. I was very confident in that. I did not want to be pressured. And I think that was what it came down to for me was it was my choice and I didn't want to be pressured to do it at all.
Gotcha.
Okay, what's your story?
Well, you know those things that you look back and you're like, "Oh my God, what was?" It's almost it's like embarrassing to me in some ways. But anyway, but I really felt this when I was in college. I was still a virgin, of course, and there was a young man that we never actually dated, but I had very strong feelings for him, and I really wanted him like to take my virginity. Like I really wanted that. Like I
Yeah.
drank, and I'm not saying it was a super conscious choice, like a good choice or a bad choice. I'm just saying that's how I felt. And he had the insight to be like, oh no, I don't want like the responsibility of that because I'm assuming I never actually spoke with him about it, but he must have been in that situation prior with a previous woman and knew that that would create a lot of connection and maybe a sense of commitment, and that didn't work for him. So, but man, I really wanted to.
Okay, I think what's so interesting is you said, take my virginity. And I never thought of it that way. I always
Mm.
thought about it as like giving it to someone, not letting someone take it from me.
And look, we've established my mindset about sex and
Sure.
intimacy is, I think, way off and like has been my whole time here. So, yes, I totally hear you about that. And yeah, I think that that was kind of my sort of impression of men was, they would take. And so, but I wanted him to take this. And I don't know, maybe I was hoping it would make me memorable to him or it would
Mm.
create some kind, I mean, I'm sure I didn't think ahead and I didn't really understand what sex actually even would have meant. I don't think. Not, I mean, maybe I had a vague idea of physically what would happen. But yeah, I was not waiting for this intimate connection. This was this precious gift I have. I kind of wanted to get rid of it in a way.
I think that's pretty common, especially after a certain age.
Mm.
People are like, just take it. Like, just get, I just want this gone.
There's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure around it. I mean, you want it to be special, but then maybe you give up hope that it's going to be. I think that might be a bit where I was with it. Yeah.
So when did you actually lose it and to whom? You don't have to say the
So,
name.
yeah, no, I won't. But it was my first real boyfriend. We ended up being together for a couple of years. And I think about 3 months into our relationship, this was how it was so unromantic. I think we were bored. And I was like, oh, hey, do you want to have sex? And he was like, uh, I'm like, well, let's just go to like, I don't know, the convenience store and get some condoms. That's how matter of fact I was about it, honestly. It was like something to do. It
And
wasn't,
that's how it happened?
that's how it happened. Yeah. And
Okay. I, Go ahead.
and the only thing I really remember, and again, it feels like another, especially now that I look back and I see it a little bit differently. I remember it happening. I remember being in the act of it. And I don't remember what I felt in any kind of way. He was on top of me, and all I remember is that I was watching the TV. There was some cartoon on, and I tuned into the cartoon, and I really left my body.
How does that make you feel now?
Well, the words awareness and validation are coming to me right now, um, because yeah, that's just it's so easy to want to make yourself wrong when you feel like you're really kind of effed up in some kind of way. And I have to work to not do that anymore. I'm really feeling committed to not doing that anymore.
Good on you.
So I think it validates kind of my theories about coming into this life with a lot of damage and trauma in that area. And to me now, looking at that, like, who does that? Like, why didn't we just go out to like, I don't know if there was like a Dave and Buster's at that time that existed, but why didn't we just go bowling? Why was I like, hey, I have an idea. My vagina's here. Let's fuck.
Let's fuck. Now, what's quite interesting to me from my perspective, Noelle,
Please.
is I don't even remember when I lost it. I need to have a conversation with my husband. So here's the deal. I lost my virginity to my husband.
Wow.
Now, let's be very, very, very clear. I did everything upside down ways in between, da 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 da. So it was literally this, I don't know, like penis in the vagina, not going to happen. And the one of the guys I dated prior actually like put the penis head in, and I'm like, I mean, I like freaked out on him because
Wow.
I was not ready for that.
Mm.
And I also kind of knew that that relationship wasn't going to last. But all of this lead up, and Alex will tell me that I literally begged at like 6 months. He's like, you were begging me to like have sex with you. And I kind of remember that I was pretty horny. And I kind of remember. And he knew how important it was. And he was not going to do that right away. He was not going to do that. It was something that he wanted to make sure 110% that I was completely in it, completely ready to go, etc. And yeah, so he basically said I begged for it for quite some time. So I'm sure he loved that. Uh, and then I don't even remember. I have no recollection. I mean, my memory is shit anyway. Let's just be honest. I have a
Okay.
horrible memory. Isn't that horrible? I wait 24 years and I can't even remember.
Well, I'm finding this also fascinating in some ways that, there's, lots of ways that relationships unfold. And when we're young, we look for signs of somebody really caring about us or hoping to have some, attachment with each other kind of thing. So I'm wondering, because 6 months, I think even, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, was like a long time to wait when you're dating somebody. And I hear that you did maybe everything else except for, penetration, let's say. But so was there already like I love yous and we're committed to each other, I think you're my person happening?
Nope.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. And truthfully, one of the reasons why I was so intrigued by him is because he wasn't as infatuated with me as everybody else had been. But he wasn't mean or anything. He's such a nice guy. And he loved the fact that I wasn't all into him. I was dating other people. He was dating other people. We had a very open relationship. I called him my smooching partner, which I would tell people, by the way, I'm a virgin and I have a smooching partner and you're not him. If you would like to take me out on a date, that's totally fine. And I don't think we were even totally serious for like 9 months. And maybe that was it. Maybe there was that decision of, okay,
Gotcha.
we're committed to each other now. Now we have sex. But I got to tell you, I got to talk to him about it. This is so good to have this conversation. Yeah. I hope he doesn't listen. He'll be like, Jen, come on. I didn't remember the first time he kissed me. He had to remind me. I was like, oh, I remember now. He made me wait 3 dates before he kissed me. Good God. I must have just really liked him. Well, obviously, I'm married to him. I do still really like him.
Yeah, but he must have really liked you that I mean, he put a lot of, it seems like, thought into, and it seems like whatever goes under the umbrella of intimacy really meant a lot to him, that he was like being so deliberate.
Well, and so I did some other research about what is virginity and what is losing it, and
Mm.
how did we look at it then, and how do we look at it now? And the interesting thing from my perspective was what they're saying now about the description of losing your virginity is much more along the lines of how I thought about it 25 plus years ago. And that is that it is a connection. It is intimacy, it's sensuality, it's giving and taking and having this communication around it. It's all of that. And that's how they're saying now it's not really the act of penetration anymore in how people are thinking about their virginity. It's more of who am I truly connecting with that way to give myself intimately to them. So if that were the case, I lost my virginity a long time ago, before Alex. But it, but I think uh, it opened my eyes a little bit. I was reading that and I thought, oh, that's how I thought of it then. And I don't think that is actually what happened when we were growing up, where it was this taboo. It was very religious for me in the beginning. Like, oh, I think that's where it originally started from, was religion. I was raised in a very Lutheran. We went to church every Sunday. We didn't talk about those things. I mean, we didn't.
Yeah.
But I remember talking about it, which is weird. I remember being told, maybe that's the better words, from the pastors and from the CDC, or not confirmation, from all of those people, that sex was just not a thing that you did before marriage. And I remember hearing that as a child. So I think that really affected me. And then once I decided to leave that doctrination, etc., I it became my personal decision. But it's interesting how much it like sneaks in there.
Yeah, I mean, we're socialized and indoctrinated basically by our culture and our family. And I mean, I don't remember, I grew up in a very like non-religious home. Um, and, you know, also non-communicative. So I don't remember anybody putting any expectations on me or even suggesting something that might have been like a framework from which I'd be like, oh, no, that makes sense. I think that's part of why, I often have, when I look back, felt so lost, is there was no structure in my mind of how to live, how to create things for, like I really didn't know. And I didn't think to ask somebody that might have actually helped me. I was just sort of like feeling my way blindly. Yeah, I think I just got infatuated with this guy and I was like, him,
Mm-hmm.
him. Because also at some point it felt a little bit like a liability. Being in
Mm.
college and everybody would, be hooking up with each other. There were, I can think of one occasion in particular where had somebody not knocked on the door, I was not like chaste in college. I think I did a lot of acting out sexually, even though I didn't have sex, but I did lots of other things. And I remember one guy in particular who we were in his room, we were fooling around, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a virgin, like I don't do that." And he was like, "Oh, you're not, basically, you're not gonna take me this far and not fuck me." And thank goodness somebody knocked on the door of his room and I guess wanted to come in, and so it interrupted things. But yeah, no, I got spared. Plenty of people, it would have happened,
Wouldn't.
and it
Yeah.
did. I was spared, but that was scary. And I've been in other situations later in life, well after, losing my virginity, where, you know, they were not great situations. So, but I remember that one in particular. So that might have been part of it too, is like, I don't want it taken in the wrong time or with the wrong situation. And it's this thing I'm kind of carrying. I mean, we had like the V Club. This was when I was living in the dorm at college in New Jersey. And we would talk about this, like, me and my other like girlfriends, and a lot of them were virgins. And I remember Valentine's Day, we would drink fuzzy navels and blasting Meatloaf's Bat Outta Hell album. And there was a bonding over all of us still being virgins.
Right.
It was the 80s. What did we know?
Well, but I love that. I really do think that's a wonderful thing. And if there are parents out there that are listening and have teenage daughters, maybe that is something to celebrate. Like, hey, have a V club. Or I don't know, I never thought about that. The As you were talking though, and having those uncomfortable situations, it was not when my cherry was popped. My cherry was popped in high school by a guy, and I I was mortified. It was not what I wanted. And I've thought about this because I read a statistic and I can't exactly remember what it is, but something like 4 in 6 girls are sexually abused in some way. It's a lot. And I'll have to look that up just to make sure. But in the end, it's a lot of girls. And I thought to myself, oh, I haven't. Guess what? I was sexually traumatized and abused in that situation. It was a high school guy, my age. I have no, and now mind you, I was a very good kid. I was a super athlete. I was a super smart, high grades. Approval was everything to me. And I had never had a guy show interest in me in high school. Guys showed a lot of interest in me in college once I get out of that high school scene. But I was very much like wanting approval. And this guy showed interest in me. I thought that he was popular-ish. He was on the football team. And I remember we were in a hotel room and there were other people in the room. We were next to the wall, between the bed and the wall. We were on the floor. And he put his hand so far into me that he popped my cherry. And I look back on that now and I'm wondering if maybe that's when I kind of said, "Oh gosh, no. I got to start putting a lot of boundaries around this because I don't want that to happen."
Yeah. And look, you related to your body, also your virginity, but your body as being precious to you. Like it was yours. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that might be something like if anyone has been traumatized or abused in that way, there's a different switch on that. I could have gone into and covered up my heart and said, I'm never going to do that. No one's going to touch me again. Or I could have gone the other way and said, okay, fine. It's over. It's done. Let's just go there now since it's already happened. I mean, maybe not the penis hasn't been inside my vagina, but certainly hands have been too far up there. I mean, he had to be in there a long ways to get that to happen. Poor kid, poor me. God, who does that? Anywho, but I think there's something there about you can look differently at every situation. And I have a presentation that I do called Healing Schmealing. And it's kind of about that whole concept of you just have to choose sometimes. Is this going to ruin the story that you tell, or is this going to simply be a part of your story? And I think people hang on to the concept of I have to process and process and process and get over this, and I've got to go to therapy and I've got to rehash it. I don't know. I don't always believe that. I think there are times when you can simply look at your situation and say, Okay, that is what happens. I'm going to ache for it. I'm going to process it. I am going to journal about it. I'm going to cry about it. I'm going to be ashamed about it. I'm going to be whatever. And then I'm going to decide moving forward. I am moving forward. I don't have to say it didn't happen, but I'm going to look back on it and say, okay, that was part of who I am now. That is not who I am now.
Hmm. Totally love that. And what you're describing, that whole process, is this way of like self-acceptance, maybe self-compassion, processing it. And I think that why people would go to therapy is if they're feeling unable to do that whole process for themselves. So they just need somebody to support them through that process. But what you're describing is something that would create a lot of healing and letting go of and not hanging on to shame about those things, because that's part of what becomes so damaging. And what you described about, hey, it could have gone either way. Like after that, I could have been like, well, screw it. I kind of lost it anyway. So, and that, and the therapist in me wants to share that often when you've had your, let's say, physical boundaries crossed, as the psychiatrist I used to work with used to say, yeah, it's easy to go in either direction. So some people become very sexualized if they've been used for sex, especially early in life. And they tend to think of that as, I'm kind of, you know, embellishing a little bit on this part, but it's like it could be viewed as like currency. I think that's how I got into that. But also it could, people can become very prudish in a self-protective, self-preserving sort of way. So what you're describing, I think, is very normal. And when I've seen, it's been very interesting to me since I learned about that, when I see some women who seem very, like I remember this one woman in particular, she always wore like a turtleneck and she was always very covered. And she was in her 60s and had her husband around, and but I always remember that. And then when she shared about some, situation when she was younger happening to her where her physical boundaries were crossed, I was like, oh, she went in that more sort of prudish direction to protect herself, all legitimate choices. Part of it, though, does come from it being unprocessed.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is I made a decision. I remember, I mean, I think I was 16 at the time, and I was so embarrassed to go to school the next Monday. I think it happened on a Saturday. It took so much courage to just go and just step forward.
Wow.
And maybe that's when I decided, okay, you either hide under a rock or you continue forward and don't let people see. And that might have been it, is don't let people see how much it hurt you. You can process it and how embarrassed you are. Man, I remember being so embarrassed. What happens if he told somebody? What happens if he told someone, I popped her cherry? What? What happened? I mean, I just was playing all of that out in my head. And yeah, I think there was a choice. And what I'm really encouraging everyone, I'm hoping people are hearing, is you have a choice. Every moment you have a choice. And that was a bad choice that I made. And then I had to figure out what was the right choice. As Frozen would say, what's the next right thing? What's the next best right thing? Like that was just what I had to do. Elsa, Elsa, not really, or Aunt and Anna, not really Frozen itself, but the movie in
Gotcha.
general.
Well, I love that. That's a great question. What is the next right best thing to do? Yeah, and I hear you. Look, you could have gotten a terrible reputation suddenly, or at least for that first day. People would have been talking, and you might have been approached by guys who were like, "Oh, well, now that so I can understand why you're like, screw that. I'm putting up a fence." You didn't put up a cement wall, but you put up a fence and you set some boundaries for yourself. And you know, I feel like, and maybe this is me, I would love to hear from other women about how they feel about this, but I maybe because I had various experiences, I've had the awareness at times of really feeling a bit like my body isn't mine. I remember being at the gym a couple years ago, and there's this young woman. I think she was like 19 or something. We kind of chatted because she worked at the gym, and I see her working out. She's got tattoos. She's watching herself in the mirror as she's doing whatever she's doing. She was so intent on crafting her body in a way. And here I am doing whatever machine I'm doing. And I just had this moment of like, oh my God, like she owns her body. And I felt suddenly very aware of like, to me, mine at times was up for grabs. Me gave me a huge appreciation for a younger generation. No, I don't know how many people she really represents, but I love the idea of she was like, no, fuck you. This is mine. And you had your own version of that. And I really admire that, that at a young age when it wasn't the popular way to look at things, that you had enough wherewithal to make like a self-loving decision like that.
Well, thank you. The other thing that I was thinking about is I was a total nerd. So
Really?
maybe he was ashamed. Maybe he was like, oh my God, I can't believe I actually got caught up in that with Jen. And I am going to not tell anyone anything. Because who wants to be with that nerd? Oh yeah, I was not popular. I floated. I floated all over. I was part of this group for a little while, and that group, like I was an athlete, so I was, but being popular at our school was having sex, sneaking out, doing drugs. And I just was not that girl.
Huh,
And so I was not popular.
interesting.
He could have just been mortified. Maybe he didn't tell a soul. If you know who you are, contact me.
Mr. Long Fingers. Fess up, man. So interesting. So
Ah,
so you when you went to school, you did not have the experience of people knowing what happened.
I don't remember. I think I
Okay.
was, you mean when I went back to high school that day?
Yeah, that Monday.
I I think it was all, if anyone looked at me funny that day, I
Mhm.
assumed,
Of course.
but I don't think anyone said anything to me. Like I remember, I have a horrible memory.
Gotcha.
I wonder, maybe he didn't say anything to anyone. Or maybe he didn't even, well, he had to have known there had to have been blood on his fingers, right?
Mm.
But maybe it was dark. Well, it definitely was dark. I mean, hell, maybe he had no idea. Isn't that okay? So that is probably the
Oh,
best lesson for us in this whole conversation is we create all of these
yeah.
scenarios and it inhibits us. How often aren't we inhibited by the what if scenario? What if this happens? What if they know? What if someone finds out? What if, what if, what if? And we create all of these scenarios that never play out, and yet they ruin our present moment.
I feel like that's all of high school, at least for some of us. Certainly for
Yes.
me, I was very easily embarrassed and, I mean, I anyway, I feel like to me that was what being young was about, was like that kind of level of insecurity, you know? If you do something, here's another thought. If you do something and then you look back and you're like, "Oh, what the hell? Holy crap, what was I thinking?" And then you have to show up the next day. You could be like, "Yep, that's what happened." Anyway, do you want to go to lunch? And not, and choose, really choose. Don't be embarrassed. Who the F cares? The next day, somebody else will have done something bigger or worse or more dramatic. And now you're, backstage news at this point.
Well, and I do think social media has had a huge impact
Mm,
on that concept of it never going away. I wasn't raised with social media. Neither were you. I didn't go to high school and have 8,000 people taking pictures and then posting of a party where maybe I would have been seen with this guy and then I would have been seen going off in the dark with, I guess that's the other thing that I
mm,
liked what you said about the 19-year-old owning their body. But then there's also the whole concept of, do you ever own it. And maybe that's why kids these days are doing so much more about with tattoos and hair coloring and
Mhm.
piercings, is because it's the only way they feel that they do still have control over their life. When social media is taking everything and replaying it, and things are going viral and replaying it and replaying it and replaying it, you can't ever seem to escape some things that you don't want. And I
Yeah.
have a lot of compassion for an individual who is in that situation where they can't seem to escape something that is haunting them. And then I know we're not talking about vaginas anymore, but hey, it's still something that is a huge problem with our society today. But I love what you said is okay, there it is. That's what happened. Let's move forward and know that not as many people concentrate on it as you do.
Yeah.
Not everybody does. So, just thoughts.
Oh, I love that you brought up social media because that hadn't even occurred to me. The impact of that would be huge and potentially feel horrendous because, yeah, you can't get away from. And people's comments. It's shocking to me, really shocking to me, the things that people will say to each other because they're safe from a distance and anonymous. And it's horrifying because we can take in all of the energy of those comments, much less the actual words of them, and relate to them like they're real. And, comments are like assholes. Everyone has one, and we don't have to listen to them. And what people say to us that's crappy and shitty and feels bad is a reflection of them. Them. It has really, especially when it's somebody you don't even know and they don't know you, it really has nothing to do with you, even though it's so easy to take it personally because it's directed at you. I just had this moment like 3 days ago where I was on Instagram and I'm on kind of a lot. And I usually don't make comments, but then I made a comment. There's a comedian I follow and he's like, okay, should I lose weight or should I buff up? And I just had this like, you're beautiful the way you are. And I wrote that to him, and it occurred to me, you know what? I could be a person who just leaves positive, loving comments as much as I can. And I didn't plan on saying it to anybody, but I feel committed to like, you know what? When it feels right, I'm just going to leave love on people's pages because that just feels like the right thing to do. But yeah, I mean, we have to be careful about what we let influence us, all of us.
Well, I think that's a beautiful thing for all of us to remember is when you see something, say something.
Mm,
That whole thing of if you see someone doing something beautiful or being kind, or you see a post, or you can give loving kindness, give loving kindness. I love giving compliments to people, women, men, children. I love catching a child saying thank you or please. And I'll say, oh, thank you for saying thank you. That's so nice of you. Especially with kids, man, just catching them doing things right. Canfield has a book about that,
hmm
like being just catching people doing things in the right eye. But that's a great thing that you did for that person. You're beautiful just the way you are. Because it is tricky when we start talking about, I mean, okay, we'll wrap this up with this whole thing of, especially when we're looking at our sensuality and our sexuality and not being good enough and having the Mai Tai belly or the cheese belly, like I was talking about a couple of episodes ago. And none of that matters. I am beautiful just the way I am. And if I choose to buff up or lose weight or whatever, that's my choice. It should not be influenced by anyone else or the worth that I attach to their opinions.
Yeah. And to not let how we define ourselves, like for me, it's gaining weight and being out of shape and letting that define how I really feel about my physical body and its desirability. It's kind of ridiculous. I'm a soul in this package.
Beautiful package.
We all
Hmm.
have beautiful packages.
We do. Some of them swing low between our legs and some of them
Yeah,
don't.
my brain went there too. But we should, and look, let's all take good care of our physical packages,
Packages.
but also honor ourselves as frickin' souls in these bodies and torture ourselves, I don't know, just a little bit less.
Just a little bit
Just a
less.
little bit less. Because you're worth it. You're beautiful. We love you. We're so glad you're here with us. Thank you so much. And I love this podcast and the idea of really delving into stuff. And as we say, let's keep it real together.
And don't forget, you can always comment or send us emails at vaginawhispering@gmail.com. We now have a YouTube channel, so you can subscribe there. And you can also go and listen to any of our podcasts just on regular podcast apps, or you can go and watch this video on the YouTube channel. And what were you
Yeah.
saying about your beautiful
Oh, I'm
face?
just saying, no, you get to actually see us.
Yes.
And I was laughing, and you'll see it on the video in previous episodes. My microphone wasn't working, so it seems like Jen was telling jokes to crickets, but I was laughing. I was just quietly laughing because my mic didn't work.
And I
So,
can hear you now laughing, which is so great. I
oh,
love
good.
hearing you laugh.
Yeah.
All right, Noelle, thank
Yeah.
you so very much
Oh,
for contributing and just chatting with me today.
thank you, Jen. This was wonderful, beautiful, open conversation. And please do connect with us. We do want to hear from you. We really do. Take care. Bye bye.